So this is going to be a review of Fast X. It's the latest movie of a dead franchise, not dying, dead, Fast and Furious. Of the newer ones, since they've become so dumb and they've become spies, I like Fast 5 and Furious 7. They're dumb, but they're still enjoyable enough, right? But definitely after Furious 7, they have been pretty bad to me. I didn't like that last one. I didn't like Fate of the Furious, and I also don't like this one. I actually think this one is, if not the worst, it's one of the worst. I feel like it is the worst though. It's an absolute mess. But it's directed by Louis Leterrier. I've seen that he's directed some other stuff that I've seen. Some things I like, some things I don't like. Like Incredible Hulk was one of them. Things like that. But this movie, right? It starts off, with Fast Five, pretty much, because the villain from Fast Five turns out to be the father of the villain of this movie, that is played by Jason Momoa. I forgot what his name was. Um, Dante. He's the villain of this movie. He's been, gearing up for his revenge all these years, and he ends up taking Cypher, Charlize Theron's character, um, taking her men from her by like kidnapping their families and stuff like that. And so that's how he gets his forces together to go after them. He sets them up with this bomb in Rome, and they go there to try to stop it. They end up stopping it, but they end up getting blamed for it. So now they're on the run. They're like on the most wanted list. They're separated, and they have to try to avoid not only just like local authorities, but the agency itself, the agency that they've been working with like Mr. Nobody and things like that. Since they pretty much became spies, they're also chasing after them. So they have to deal with that while also dealing with Jason Momoa's character Dante. So positives: Tyrese and Ludacris's character Roman and Tash. They actually do feel like they're naturally close. Like they do make fun of each other. They're constantly going back and forth, and they make fun of each other. They even fight in this, but there is always this feeling that they do care about each other, right? Like they do have kind of a touching moment with each other in this one, and it worked. It was one of the only things that like made me legitimately smile. I was like, all right, that was nice. Whereas with everybody else, it's just family, 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 but they don't actually feel like a family. They're just saying it. They say it a lot. But with them, they do work, and they even have some funny moments that I liked.
Hey, why are you so quiet? You all right?
Just been sitting there thinking, man.
I knew I smelled something burning in here.
Tash,
It's also shot okay, right? You have the spectacle of it all. That's always the excuse for them being so dumb, but people still enjoy them. Oh, well, they're dumb, but they're fun. I disagree with that, at least with these last three. But there are certain points, like there's when they were in Rome and they were trying to stop that bomb, and Dom runs into, I guess, a crane or whatever it was, and hits the bomb into the water. It's stupid. It's implausible, but it was kind of a fun moment. So there's a little bit of that here and there in the set pieces. So I guess that's okay. And the performances for the most part are also good, even if the characters are, all over the place in all these different places, and the movie's a mess, and they're just constantly saying family, even though they don't feel like it really. Um, the performances are still good. Like the actors are doing what they need to do, other than one person who feels out of place and it feels forced. Her personality. We'll get back to her. All right, so that's all the positives I got. So let's start off with the overall plot here. So Dante, Jason Momoa is going after them, right? He's getting revenge for what happened with his father. Everything was taken away from him as a result of what they did. So it makes sense. It's derivative of Furious 7, because that's pretty much what happened with Jason Statham, where they defeated his brother, and so that's why he was going after them. I'm pretty sure that was the story back then. So that's a problem, but whatever, right? On paper, that sounds like you could do a movie about that. But we focus on all this other shit. The stuff with Dante already doesn't make sense. We'll get back to that. But we focus on so many other things. In the movie, it's like, not counting credits or whatever, the mid credit and all that, I think it's just a little bit over 2 hours. Man, you really feel that, and it doesn't feel like it should be that long, because we have so much time where we're focusing on other shit, right? John Cena's hanging around with Dom's son, trying to protect him, but also just doing having misadventures with him. Then you got Roman and Tej and the rest of that group doing whatever the fuck with Pete Davidson. They spend the whole movie, I guess, trying to get to the rendezvous point, but yet they keep getting from this location to this location, even though they're wanted. And it's like, at what point are they gonna make it there? It's like Letty is there with Charlize Theron, Cypher, because she got injured and she got captured, so now they're in some max prison or whatever, and they're trying to get out, right? So you got that going on, and it's just there's a lot. There's so many like side things, and you're thinking, okay, so Dom is focusing on the main plot. He's the one focusing the most, but he gets sidetracked, goes to be in some race, and luckily I guess Jason Momoa popped up, but he ends up meeting the secret sister of the woman he had his kid with, the one from Fast Five that barely had a character. It's like, why are we doing this? You already have way too many characters, way too much of this shit going on at all these different locations. It's a fucking mess. Why introduce another character? Why have somebody have a secret family member a fucking again? Why? It's stupid. But like, it's just, I challenge you, especially with this being over 2 hours, I challenge you not to think to yourself when John Cena's fucking jamming it out to Marky Mark, the Good Vibrations with Dom's kid. I challenge you not to think in that scene, where's the plot? Like, why are we doing this? What reason do we have for this? They get on a plane and do all the other stuff too, and it's misadventures. It's like at some point we got to get to the plot, right? And the plot itself isn't all that good anyway. So you got Dante, Jason Momoa. He has nothing, right? But apparently he has everything. He has limitless resources. It seemed like he had nothing, and he took it from Charlize Theron. It already doesn't make sense because, like, how would he even have enough to be able to kidnap all those people, the people that work under her, kidnap all their families and hold them hostage somewhere? Like, somebody would have to be keeping an eye on them, right? It's like, so if you didn't have anybody until you had Cypher's people, that already didn't make sense. But whatever. He has the Cypher people, whatever. But he, at points, he is a little bit charismatic, probably because he's having to act off of Dom, Vin Diesel, who is, for somebody who wants to get super sappy with all this family shit, has like no personality. He's like a block of wood at this point.
You remember my father?
Hernandez.
Yes.
I remember he thought he had his foot on the city's neck. But you know what happened? I took him down.
Even so, with that, Jason Momoa just feels like he just got on set and just had fun, right? He's just too much of a cartoon character. A lot of his dialogue is like cringeworthy, and he's so cartoonish that he comes off as like a joke more than like actually being intimidating. Even if what he's doing is, he still comes off as a joke. And like I said, he can do anything, right? He can plan when somebody's going to be at this place to shoot them or have a sniper ready. He can do this and that and this and that and this and that, and never really making any sense out of it. There's so many parts of this movie where it's like, unless you're like watching it completely lobotomized, if you think at all, the script completely falls apart. I mean, when we actually do get back to the plot instead of just going around doing whatever. So let's get to Brie Larson. So I'm not one of the people that's just always bashing Brie Larson or hates her or whatever. I didn't like Captain Marvel, and I didn't like her in it, but I have nothing against the actual actress because why would I? But she said some things I didn't care for or did agree with, but that's not worth me hating someone. I don't know about that. And she's been good in things, definitely. But she plays Tess in this, and she's Mr. Nobody's daughter, who's kind of working outside of the agency because the agency is going after the group, the family. So she's, kind of on the outside, but still able to get access to certain things, still able to go see Letty in this max prison, and still able to do certain things. And she keeps like disappearing throughout the movie, and I keep forgetting she's even in it. So it's still an issue, but she tries so hard in this to be a hard ass. Like, she's just constantly in these like pissing contests, these back and forths with people. And it just doesn't work. It just feels forced, whether it be physically or verbally when she goes back and forth with people to show just how badass she is. It feels very forced, right? And obviously that happens with other characters and at other points in this movie too, but it really stands out with her. I just think that she was I think the writing's bad, but like she's also kind of miscast for this kind of character if you're going to have that kind of writing, because it comes off as fake. Like when Michelle Rodriguez goes back and forth with Charlize Theron, right? It feels more natural. It feels like it works for them, even if the writing isn't all that great or the dialogue isn't all that great. With Brie, it comes off as cringy. Like, oh, you're really trying to seem tough, aren't you? Yeah, there's a lot to this. I mean, the whole thing where the new head of the agency, because Mr. Nobody's missing, is going after them, even though it's very obvious that they were set up, right? But then, spoilers for this part, I guess, there's a twist where that guy was working for Dante. And apparently he's been working for him the whole time. He was there in Fast Five with Dante. So was he always in the agency, working his way up, and he just happened to turn against them and join up with that family? Or was he not in the agency at that point and he was working the long game and he joined the agency and then worked his way all the way up to almost the top of the agency if it wasn't for Mr. Nobody, and then obviously was always working for Dante. I don't know, right? And I would say that him working with Dante the whole time would make Dante having all these resources make sense, but because the twist of him being working with Dante doesn't make any sense, or at least is a huge stretch of logic. You can't even use that to excuse it. So it's nonsense. I mean, Jason Momoa is such a cartoon. I mean, he really is just sitting around with like dead bodies at one point. He could just hack into the family's accounts and take their money. And it's like, how is he able to do that? Who are these dead people that he's sitting there with? It's so much. Ashante. It doesn't even feel like a character. Anyway, I guess that's kind of it. There's very little story going on in this. For most of it, it feels like it's just kind of, hey, we got these characters, they're doing something, right? Every now and then there'll be an action scene to keep people's interest, but we're not really focusing on the plot and everything. We're clearly setting up another movie because we're gonna make this like a two-part finale, I guess. But it's still kind of lame, and the set pieces have moments, but they're still kind of lame because of the bad CGI. And no, I just don't really care, man. Like this is bad. Like I spent the whole time just wanting it to be over. It's bad, right? So I was somewhat generous to the last movie. I think I gave it a rental. I'm not as generous this time. I hated this movie. I really wanted it to be over, and like, I hate movies where like, in order for you to go along with what's going on, you have to just completely like turning your brain off is one thing, but you would have to like perform surgery and like take it out of your head, take your brain out of your head. It's just, I'm tired. I'm tired. I think we're all tired at this point. So I gave the last one a rental. I'm actually going to give this trash. It's one of the worst movies I've seen of this year, and I wanted it to be over so bad. I couldn't wait. I was like, man, if you have this little story going on, or you're not going to focus on what story there is, then at least have it be an hour and a half and we're done. Like, why is this over 2 hours? But anyway, that's it. That's Fast X. It's trash. This needs to end. And that's it. Subscribe, and we're done.